Duke throws beggar sister out. Lightning split the sky as Anna stood at the iron gates, rain streaming down her face. 22 years old and dressed in rags that clung to her shivering body, she looked up at the mansion that had once been her home. On the dry porch, Duke James threw back his head and laughed, the sound cruel and sharp as broken glass. "I have no sister," he called out, his voice dripping with contempt. "You are a beggar, nothing more." He snapped his fingers. 2 guards seized her arms and hurled her forward. Anna crashed into the mud with a sickening thud, pain exploding through her body. As she struggled to breathe, something heavy slipped from her pocket and landed beside her face. Not a coin. In the next flash of lightning, it glowed pure gold, the royal seal of the king. He thought she was trash. He didn't know she held the power to destroy him. Oh, astonishing, isn't it? But before we reveal how this incredible moment came to be, I have a question for you. Do you believe that destiny is written in the stars, or do we make it ourselves? Let me know in the comments below, and tell me, where in the world are you watching from today? I love reading you stories. Now, settle in, hit that subscribe button to join our family, and let me tell you the truth about what really happened. 3 years. 3 years since Anna had walked through these gates as an exile, bearing the shame of a scandal she never committed. The estate looked exactly as she remembered. Sprawling stone walls, manicured gardens, windows blazing with light from the party within. But she was different now. The silk gowns were gone, replaced by a peasant's rough wool and a threadbare cloak. Mud caked her worn boots as she approached the entrance where music and laughter spilled into the night. She didn't knock. She simply stood there, waiting, until a servant noticed her and gasped. Within moments, Duke James himself appeared at the door, resplendent in velvet and gold brocade. His eyes widened, then narrowed with disgust. "Anna," he spoke her name like a curse. "What are you doing here? How dare you show your face at my home?" "Our home," Anna corrected quietly. "I've come back, James." He stepped forward, blocking the doorway with his body. Behind him, curious guests craned their necks to see the commotion. "You shame this family," he hissed. "Look at you. You look like you've been living in a ditch. You think I'll let you inside looking like that? During my party, with the province's most important people here." Anna met his eyes with steady calm. The training she'd received over the past 3 years, the secrets she'd carried, the missions she'd completed in service to the crown, had burned away the frightened girl she'd once been. "Appearances are deceiving, James. Let me in or you will regret it." For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Uncertainty, perhaps. But then his face hardened with familiar arrogance. "The only thing I regret is sharing blood with you. You were cast out for a reason. Stay cast out." The door slammed in her face with such force that Anna felt the wind of it. She stood there for a long moment, listening to the party resume inside, to her brother's booming laugh as he made some joke she couldn't quite hear. Then she turned and walked toward the old stables at the edge of the property, her hand pressed against the hard shape of the royal seal hidden in her pocket. James had made his choice. Now he would live with the consequences. The stables smelled of hay and horses, familiar and strangely comforting. Anna found an empty stall in the back, away from the wind that howled through the cracks in the walls. She was cold, bone-deep cold that came from being soaked through. But her mind was clear. This was not defeat. This was exactly what she'd expected. She'd barely settled onto a pile of hay when she heard footsteps. An old man appeared in the doorway, a lantern trembling in his weathered hands. Thomas, the head groom who'd taught her to ride when she was 6 years old. "Lady Anna?" His voice broke. "Oh, my dear girl, what has he done to you?" Tears streamed down his wrinkled face as he rushed forward, wrapping a thick horse blanket around her shoulders. Anna accepted it gratefully but didn't cry. She couldn't afford tears now. "I'm all right, Thomas. I'm exactly where I need to be. But you're freezing. You're soaking wet. I'll bring you to the kitchen. Get you warm. No. Anna's voice was gentle but firm. She reached into her pocket and withdrew the golden seal, holding it up so the lantern light caught its surface. Thomas's eyes went wide. I am not here to beg, Thomas. I am here to judge. The old man sank onto a bale of hay, staring at the seal as though it were a holy relic. The king's seal. But how, why? Anna's expression hardened. For 3 years I've served the crown. Not in exile, Thomas. As a spy, a messenger. I've carried secrets that would make kingdoms fall. And all that time I watched my brother from afar. I watched him steal from the crown, forge documents, sell titles to the highest bidder. The king needed proof, and I was sent to gather it. Then why come back like this? Because the king wanted to give James one final test. Anna looked toward the mansion, where light and music still poured from the windows. He wanted to see if my brother had even a shred of honor left. If he would take in his sister when she had nothing. If he had a heart beneath all that greed. She smiled, cold and sad. Now we both know the answer. Morning broke gray and cold over the estate. Anna woke to the sound of horses and shouting. She rose from the hay, brushed the straw from her clothes, and moved to the stable door. A column of royal guards filled the courtyard, their armor gleaming despite the overcast sky. At their head rode a captain with steel-gray hair and a face carved from stone. In the mansion's entrance, Duke James appeared, still in his dressing gown, his face pale as parchment. Anna watched from the shadows as he descended the steps, his hands shaking slightly as he bowed. Captain Aldrich, this is unexpected. To what do I owe the honor? The captain dismounted, his boots hitting the cobblestones with authority. We are looking for a messenger of the king. A woman. She was supposed to arrive here 2 days ago. James's laugh came out strangled, too high-pitched. A woman? Here. He glanced nervously at his steward. There's no woman here, only my household servants. Surely you're mistaken. The king does not make mistakes, Duke James. Of course not, of course not. James wrung his hands, and Anna could see the calculation in his eyes. He thought they'd discovered his crimes. He thought they'd come to arrest him. And rather than confess that his own sister had come to his door, rather than risk being connected to her in any way, he was denying her existence entirely. I assure you, Captain, if any messenger had come to my estate, I would have received her with all honors. But I've seen no one. Perhaps she went to the wrong house? The Miller estate is just 3 miles north. Anna felt something settle in her chest. Not surprise, she'd known James was a coward, but a kind of grim satisfaction. He'd just sealed his own fate, and he didn't even know it. The captain's eyes narrowed. Search the grounds. He commanded his men. Every building, every room. As the guards fanned out across the property, James stood frozen on the steps, watching his world begin to crumble around him. Anna heard them coming before she saw them. 3 guards appeared at the stable entrance, their eyes adjusting to the dim light. One of them spotted her immediately, sitting calmly on a bale of hay. There's someone here, the guard called. They approached cautiously, and Anna made no move to run or hide. She simply stood, brushing hay from her skirt, and waited. Through the stable doors, she could see James hurrying across the courtyard, the captain striding beside him. That's just a vagrant, James was saying loudly. Someone who wandered in during the night. I'll have her removed immediately. He stopped dead when he saw Anna's face. The captain continued past him, entering the stable with measured steps. Then, to James's visible shock, the captain dropped to one knee, his head bowed low. My Lady Anna, we were worried when you did not send word. The other guards immediately followed suit, kneeling in the hay. Anna inclined her head graciously. I apologize for the concern, Captain Aldrich. I was detained. James stood in the doorway, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Why are you bowing to a beggar?" The words came out as a strangled whisper. The captain didn't even glance at him. "My lady, the king has decreed that a banquet be held tonight. You are to preside over it, as is your right. We've brought proper accommodations for you, and the king's own seamstress to attend you." "A banquet?" Anna kept her voice neutral. "How thoughtful of His Majesty." "Wait." James finally found his voice, though it trembled. "Wait. There must be some mistake. This is Anna. My sister. She's been in exile. She's a disgrace. Why would the king?" "The king demands it." Captain Aldrich cut him off, his tone brooking no argument. He finally looked at James, and there was ice in his gaze. "Surely you have no objection to hosting a royal banquet at your estate, Duke James?" It wasn't really a question. James swallowed hard, his face cycling through emotions. Confusion, fear, calculation. "Of course not. I am honored. Though I don't understand." "You don't need to understand," Anna said softly, stepping forward into the light. "You just need to prepare. Tonight, Captain. Tonight, my lady." The transformation began immediately. Servants Anna had known since childhood rushed to the stables, some weeping, others simply staring in confusion as the royal guard escorted her back to the mansion. James attempted to intercept her in the main hall, a false smile plastered on his face. "Anna, my dear sister, there's clearly been a misunderstanding. Let me prepare the mistress's chambers for you. I have the most beautiful gowns, imported silks from the eastern provinces. You must wear something suitable for—" "No." Anna's voice was quiet but absolute. She turned to the seamstress the king had sent, an elderly woman with kind eyes. "Something simple, dignified. Gray wool would be appropriate." The seamstress nodded approvingly and led Anna upstairs. Behind her, she heard James sputtering protests, but she didn't look back. By evening, the estate blazed with light. Carriages arrived bearing the province's gentry, lords and ladies who'd once called Anna friend, before the scandal that had never been explained. She could hear their whispers from her chamber as she dressed. The beggar sister returned. Why would the king honor her? James must be mortified. Anna studied herself in the mirror. The gray wool gown was perfect, elegant without being ostentatious, the kind of dress that spoke of quiet power rather than desperate display. She wore no jewels, no adornments. She didn't need them. The dining hall fell silent when she entered. Every eye fixed on her as she walked to her place at the table, not at the foot, where James had undoubtedly hoped to seat her, but at the head, in the position of honor Captain Aldrich had prepared. James sat to her right, his jaw clenched so tight she thought she heard his teeth crack. As the first course was served, James leaned close, his voice a venomous whisper. "Don't think this changes anything. I don't know what game you're playing, but you are still nothing. Still the exile. Still the shame of this family." Anna picked up her wine glass, swirling the dark liquid thoughtfully. Then she turned to him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Eat your dinner, James. It will be your last one here." His face went white, but before he could respond, the doors opened again. A hush fell over the room as General Marcus Stormwind, the king's highest-ranking officer, strode into the hall. General Stormwind was a mountain of a man, scarred and gray-haired, with eyes that had seen 1,000 battlefields. The dinner guests rose as one, bowing deeply. Even James scrambled to his feet, though Anna noted how his hands shook as he gripped the table edge. "General Stormwind, this is an unexpected honor." The general waved away the pleasantries. "Sit, all of you." His gaze swept the room before landing on James. "Duke James, the king entrusted you with something of great importance 3 years ago. A royal seal, granting ownership of this estate to the most worthy heir. Where is it?" The color drained from James's face. The seal?" But I have the title. The estate is legally mine. My father. Your father is dead, the general said bluntly. And the king's decree supersedes all previous arrangements. The seal was delivered to this estate 3 years ago. It should be in your possession. Unless. His eyes narrowed dangerously. You've lost it. James's mouth worked soundlessly. Anna could see him thinking frantically, trying to calculate a lie that would save him. Finally, he managed, "The seal is secure, General. I keep it in my private study. I can retrieve it." "No need." Anna's voice cut through the tension like a blade. She stood, reaching into the pocket of her gray gown. Every eye in the room fixed on her as she withdrew the golden seal, its surface catching the candlelight. She held it up for a moment, letting everyone see it clearly, before slamming it down onto the table with a crack that echoed through the hall. Here it is. The seal lay between them like an accusation. James stared at it, his face cycling through shock, rage, and something close to panic. You stole it. You took it from my study." "I didn't steal anything that wasn't already mine," Anna said coldly. "But please continue lying. I find it illuminating." The general picked up the seal, examining it briefly before nodding with satisfaction. "Lady Anna, on behalf of His Majesty, I thank you for safeguarding the crown's property." He turned to the assembled guests. "Perhaps it's time you all learned the truth." General Stormwind's voice carried to every corner of the silent hall. 3 years ago, King Edward received troubling reports about Duke James. Evidence of corruption, forged documents, illegal sales of royal land, theft from the crown's treasury. Each accusation landed like a stone. James opened his mouth to protest, but the general silenced him with a look. The king required proof, so he devised a test. Anna remained standing, her hands folded calmly before her. She'd waited 3 years for this moment. "The king offered Lady Anna a choice," the general continued. "She could flee the kingdom, escaping the false scandal her brother had manufactured to steal her inheritance. Or she could serve the crown, gathering evidence against the duke while pretending to be in exile." He smiled grimly. She chose service. Gasps rippled through the crowd. James's face had gone from white to gray. For 3 years, Lady Anna traveled as the king's messenger and spy. She carried state secrets, negotiated treaties, and yes, she watched her brother. She documented every crime, every theft, every betrayal. The king granted her ownership of this estate 3 years ago. But first, she had to prove she could survive without the title. That she was worthy of the responsibility. The general turned to James. But the king also wanted to know if Duke James had any decency left. So he sent Lady Anna back here, disguised as a beggar, with one simple test. Would you help your sister when she had nothing? Would you show mercy, compassion, basic human kindness? "I sent her back to you as a beggar," the general said, his voice hard as iron, "to see if you had a heart. You failed." Anna finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly. "I stood at your gate in the rain, James. I asked only for shelter. You laughed at me. You called me trash. You had your guards throw me into the mud." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But I didn't come empty-handed. While you celebrated inside, I spent the night in the stables. The same stables where you met with Baron Frost last month to sell him land that belongs to the crown." James's eyes widened in horror. "I heard every word," Anna continued, "just as I saw the forged documents you signed in your study last week. Just as I witnessed you meeting with the Merchant Guild to skim taxes meant for the king's roads." She pulled a small leather journal from her other pocket. "Every crime, every theft, every lie, all documented, all witnessed." She set the journal beside the seal. "You called me nothing, James, but I've always been watching." The general nodded to his guards. "Seize Duke James." For a moment, James just stood there, as if he couldn't comprehend what was happening. Then, as the guards moved forward, he stumbled backward, his chair clattering to the floor. No, no, this is insane. I'm a duke. You can't. You were a duke, the general corrected. Now you're a criminal. The guards grabbed James's arms. He twisted toward Anna, his face contorted with desperation. Anna, please. I'm your brother. You can't let them do this. We're family. We're blood. Anna looked down at him, and her expression was as cold as winter stone. You said you had no sister at the gate. You said I was a beggar, nothing more. I am simply agreeing with you, James. If I'm not your sister, then you have no claim to my mercy. I didn't mean it. I was angry. His voice cracked. Please, please, Anna. I raised you after father died. I took care of you. That has to count for something. You took care of me? Anna's laugh was bitter. You stole my inheritance. You spread lies about me to ruin my reputation. You let me stand in the rain like a dog while you laughed with your friends. And when the king's men came looking for me, you denied I existed because you were too much of a coward to face what you'd done. She leaned forward slightly. You had 100 chances to be a good man, James. 100 moments where you could have chosen honor over gold, family over pride. You failed every single one. James sagged in the guard's grip, all fight draining from him. Where are they taking me? To the king's dungeons, the general said. You'll face trial for your crimes. If the evidence Lady Anna gathered is as thorough as I suspect, you'll be there for a very long time. As the guards dragged him toward the door, James looked back one last time. I'm sorry, he whispered. Anna, I'm so sorry. But Anna had already turned away. The general cleared his throat, addressing the stunned guests. By order of King Edward, Lady Anna is hereby named Duchess of this estate, with all rights, titles, and privileges pertaining thereto. He handed her the seal formally. My Lady Duchess. Anna accepted it, feeling the weight of it in her palm. Not just gold and authority, but responsibility. Justice. Home. Thank you, General. 6 weeks had passed since that fateful dinner. The estate had transformed under Anna's stewardship in ways both subtle and profound. The servants no longer flinched when she walked by. Instead, they smiled, knowing they'd receive fair wages and respectful treatment. The fields that James had neglected now showed the first signs of proper cultivation. The books that had been falsified were corrected, honest accounts replacing years of lies. Anna stood at the iron gates where she'd been thrown into the mud, her hand resting on the cold metal. Someone had cleaned it since that night, scrubbed away all evidence of her humiliation. But she remembered. She would always remember. You come here often. Captain Aldrich's voice came from behind her. He'd stayed at the estate these past weeks, officially to ensure the transition of power went smoothly. Unofficially, well, Anna wasn't quite ready to name what was growing between them. I need to remember, she said quietly. Not for revenge. That's done. But to remember what it felt like to have nothing. To be treated as less than human by someone who should have loved me. She turned to face him. It makes me grateful. And it makes me determined to never become what he was. Aldrich moved to stand beside her, his presence solid and comforting. You could never become that. You have something he lacked, a conscience. Anna smiled slightly. You have too much faith in me, Captain. I have exactly the right amount of faith in you, Lady Anna. He'd never called her Your Grace or My Lady Duchess when they were alone. Always just Anna. She appreciated that more than she could say. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sun set over the estate, her estate now. In the distance, Anna could see Thomas leading a horse through the fields, training one of the younger stable boys the way he'd once trained her. The kitchens would be preparing dinner, and unlike in James's time, there would be enough food for everyone, including the servants. The changes were small, perhaps, but they mattered. The general sent word, Aldrich said eventually. The trial is concluded. Your brother will serve 15 years for his crimes. Anna nodded. She felt no satisfaction in it, but no guilt either. And after? Will the king pardon him? That depends on how he spends those 15 years. Whether he learns anything from them. Aldrich paused. The king also sent another message. For you. Oh, he's offering you a position. Not as a spy this time, you've more than earned your retirement from that life. But as an advisor. Someone to help reform the laws around inheritance and corruption. Your experience could help prevent other nobles from following your brother's path. Anna considered this. Part of her wanted to refuse, to simply stay here and build the peaceful life she'd dreamed of during those 3 years of service. But another part, the part that had carried state secrets across hostile borders, that had faced down criminals and liars without flinching, that part knew she could do more. I'll write to His Majesty, she said finally. I won't refuse, but I have conditions. This estate is my home now. I won't abandon it for months at a time. I suspect the king will be amenable to compromise. Aldrich smiled. He seems to respect you quite a bit. The feeling is mutual. Anna turned back to the gates one last time. The setting sun painted them gold, transforming them from a symbol of rejection into something beautiful. An entrance rather than a barrier. Do you know what I realized that night? She said softly. When I was lying in the mud, and I felt the seal in my pocket? What? That my brother had already lost, even if he didn't know it yet, because he'd given up the only thing that really mattered: family, loyalty, honor. He'd sold all of it for gold and status. And in the end, those things couldn't save him. They never can. Aldrich placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. And what did you gain? Anna thought about Thomas in the stables, weeping with joy when she'd promoted him to steward. About the serving girl who'd thanked her tearfully for raising the household wages. About the way the village children now ran to the estate gates instead of hiding from them, knowing the new duchess would smile at them instead of snarling. Everything that matters, she said simply. They walked back toward the mansion together as the last light faded from the sky. Behind them, the gate stood open, always open now, Anna had decreed. Anyone seeking shelter would find it here. Anyone seeking justice would receive it. The estate would be a place of honor again, the way it should have been all along. Anna paused at the threshold, looking back one final time at the gates. In her mind, she saw her former self, cold, wet, broken, but undefeated, rising from the mud with a king's seal in her hand. He threw out a beggar, she murmured, so softly that even Aldrich almost didn't hear. But he opened the door for a queen. Then she stepped inside her home, into the warm light and the life she'd earned, leaving the darkness behind her where it belonged. The end. Dear viewer, what part of this journey touched your heart or surprised you today? If you'd enjoy more historical love stories filled with healing and hope, let me know below. Please like, subscribe, and share to help others find these stories too. Thank you for spending your precious time here. Your next beautiful story is waiting on the screen.